I just need to let you know that at the outset, I am quite ill at the moment, very congested, sore throat, so my voice quality is not the way it usually is, so forgive me for that in advance, just so you know. Now, I'm not really a gaming news channel in the sense that I report exclusively on gaming news. Occasionally, I will talk about things if the news is relevant to games I like, games I cover on the channel, or games I think are important, specifically in the RPG sphere. But every now and then, there might be a news item that is worthy of talking about, even if it doesn't cross directly into my purview of interests and purview of things I cover on the channel traditionally. And this would be one such thing. What just happened very recently in terms of the news, namely Microsoft Xbox canceling, getting rid of, destroying 4 entire studios. Now, it's been years, but a few years back, I really began to think of Microsoft as this giant leviathan, this sea beast that exists to swallow up creatures and digest them without any consideration, without any thought. And this sea monster, this Microsoft, has been devouring a whole lot in recent years. Their business practices are annoying. I'm sure most of you know if you run Windows OS, which I kind of have to for a variety of reasons, and I also need the Microsoft Office suite for work-related reasons. Well, it used to be you just buy that one time, that was it, and you owned it. Now, for several years specifically, it is a yearly subscription model. So every year I have to shell out 100 euros to repurchase Microsoft Office Suite because that's just how it is. And they've been buying companies and properties left and right. Blizzard, Activision, Bethesda, Obsidian, and so on and so forth. And initially I thought, well, maybe this isn't that bad because Microsoft is pretty hands-off, which they are. They let the people do what they want to do. But even granting that seems like it's actually the case, that Microsoft lets people do what they want to do, i.e. the developers. I don't think Microsoft is good for developers and consequently good for consumers, gamers. So in the case of what just happened, Microsoft shut down 4 studios. One of them was Arcane Austin, that produced the rather disastrous Redfall game, which did not go down particularly well. You could say understandable, but Arcane Austin had also contributed to games such as Dishonored and Prey, both of which are very good games, which I could highly recommend. They also shut down Roundhouse Studios. I don't really know much about them. Alpha Dog Games, which made the game Mighty Doom, and the final studio, Tango Gameworks, which is the oddest of all the shutdowns because Tango Gameworks is the only Japanese studio, or was the only Japanese studio, better put, under the employment of Microsoft Bethesda, and they actually made some good games. Specifically, they made a game called Hi-Fi Rush, which was very successful according to Microsoft Bethesda last year. So that was a good game. They also made Ghostwire Tokyo, which was regarded as a good game, and so on and so forth. So normally when people talk about these closings and these shutdowns and people getting fired, they talk about studios that didn't perform, right? Well, you can sort of apply that to Arcane Austin, but can you apply that to Tango Gameworks? Probably not. They produced a diamond in the rough, a good game in the form of Hi-Fi Rush. I've never played it, but lots of people like that game. So what gives? Now we can only really speculate here and theorycraft, but I think there are a number of things afoot here. Now publicly, Microsoft Xbox is saying this is just a cost-cutting maneuver, a way to save money, like any other company would do. But again, when you take into account the fact that one of the studios was quite successful with the games they put out, it doesn't make a whole lot of sense. Now, this is, again, speculation, but reading between the lines, a lot of people have speculated, and this would be my supposition as well, that in fact, what has happened just now is possibly a reaction to a poorly performing, financially speaking, Starfield. Now, it's true that initially Starfield did really well, obviously. It had more players initially than any Bethesda game before it. But after that, as you well know, the numbers plummeted quite rapidly. There has not been a whole lot of interest in the game overall, especially when compared to the likes of the ever-epic, ever-popular Skyrim with its 17 gazillion editions. On top of that, Microsoft Xbox has made it clear that they want to reinvest in IPs that are tried and true without saying so much. Thus, for example, they've made it known that many of the constituent parts of these studios would be broken down and reassigned to various projects such as Elder Scrolls Online, just to cite one game. In addition, they've made some statements suggesting that they want to refocus on their traditional products, as it were, so Fallout, Elder Scrolls, and so on and so forth. However, as I've said, I am very partial to believing that this is due in no small measure to the relative lack of commercial success over a long period of time concerning Starfield. Now, all of this is an absolute nightmare for a variety of reasons. I feel like shouting to the sky, Sven was right, Sven was right. You remember his intense and passionate speech about publishers and what they do to developers and the little guy. Well, this is even more insane if you think about it than anything that's happened hitherto. Consider this, again referring to Tango Gameworks, right? You put out multiple good games as a studio, one of which is praised extensively last year, and your reward for doing good work that does well financially, the studio is dissolved and everyone is sacked. When you think about employment and market volatility, who on earth, given that kind of occurrence, would want to become a game developer? Yes, game development is in and of itself a high reward, high risk endeavor. Always has been, especially in recent years, considering the popularity of video games. But imagine not only not being rewarded for the good work you do, but punished. So you're punished when you fail, such as Arcane Austin with Redfall. It was a disaster, fair enough. But apparently, you're also punished when you succeed, which is what happened with Tango Gameworks. You flip a coin, you get heads, you lose. You flip a coin, you get tails, you lose. Whatever you do, you're screwed. Now, I'm not claiming that this is universally paradigmatic for the entire gaming industry, but we do know there have been a lot of layoffs in general, and more specifically very recently, which is why Sven Vincke had his speeches. But this, I think, is almost unprecedented. Imagine doing really well and you get fired anyway. At any job, it's bizarre. Why on earth would anyone in his right mind want to work in an industry like that? So this sets a bad precedent for game development. It's telling people it doesn't really matter what you do. You could do a bad job, and that's fine, you'll be fired. You can do a good job, that's fine too, you'll be fired. Doesn't matter. The main takeaway is no matter what you do, you can easily be screwed and probably will be screwed. That is a terrible message to send home to people. And I really think that Xbox, Microsoft did Tango Gameworks specifically very dirty, and this is just unacceptable. All the while doubling down on their tried and true IPs, such as Fallout and Elder Scrolls. Well, fair enough. Starfield, whatever you might think of the game, probably did not perform well financially, and I think this is ultimately the cause of this somewhat shocking decision. I don't know. I'm not a game developer. I don't make games, but I sure as hell would not want to work in the gaming industry as a game developer in any capacity. It sounds so risky because whether you do a good job or a bad job, totally irrelevant, screw it. And this affects other IPs as well. In a different world, I would be looking forward to Dragon Age Dreadwolf, which I've talked about a few times on this channel. There will be more information and maybe even gameplay revealed this coming summer, I believe in June. But I'm not holding my breath. Many of the key people have been let go from BioWare. BioWare is unfortunately a shell of its former self. And so whilst I still hope that Dragon Age Dreadwolf turns out to be very good, I have severe doubts. And a lot of it has to do with downsizing, with firing people, reducing the potential competence of a studio through the actions of greedy corpos. A bit rambly, but thank you for tuning in. As always, if you like my content, you can leave a like, comment, share, and subscribe. It really helps out the channel. Appreciate it. Until next time, take care.